Evan Jackson here, Young, Bold, and Regal. We're here with the stars of the film Color Book, as well as the director of Color Book, William Catlett, Jeremiah Daniels, and director David Fortune. What I loved about this film is not only the artistic nature, but the father-son nature of this film as well. So starting with the director, David, what inspired you to do it in all black and white? And also what inspired you to have this father and son tale?
Hmm. So what inspired me to do it in black and white was simply from the standpoint of not style, but character. When watching this film, I wanted people to just really be locked into the intimacy between Lucky and Mason and not pretty much the distraction or the world around them. Because I wanted you just to really connect to these two individuals and not be, focused on anything that doesn't really pertain to the story or the relationship of these two individuals. And so black and white was just a natural choice for that. It felt easy for me. It felt natural because when I would watch it in my head, all I would see is these characters. I wouldn't see the red car in the backdrop or the
Yeah.
blue sky or orange, toy playing around on the floor. I would just see Lucky and Mason. And that's all I want the audience to see. And so it was an obvious choice from the get-go. As it pertains to why, I decided to tell this story or what inspired me to tell Color Book was simply from the standpoint, I just wanted to see a black father and son story.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
sounds great.
honestly, I just wanted to wake up one day and see a trailer of a black father getting his son dressed for the day and they going out on a journey. But it wasn't until I spoke to parents who was raising children who had Down syndrome where I felt that not only do I want to tell a story, but I need to make the story because we don't often see this type of narrative on the big screen. And it really stemmed from the voice of the community and their lives and their perspective versus my own. So I really wanted to make sure I highlight their narratives, but also present it to the mass public.
And then a question for Jeremiah. How fun was it to work with Will on set and also the rest of the cast and the crew?
Is working with Will is perfect.
Mhm.
It's, it's perfect. Work with Will because he played with Lucky, and then I played with Mason.
Mhm.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I enjoyed like following the sun
Mhm.
Yeah.
and watching baseball.
And you had a good time.
Yeah, have a good time.
Yeah, it looked like a good time. Will, you always been one of my favorite actors, so it was really cool to see you in this role where it was you and Jeremiah, giving a hell of an acting performance. How was that dynamic with Jeremiah, but also how was that part of playing a father-son role in such a great film?
Well, first of all, brother, thank you for watching me and giving me those flowers I received. uh, I find the dynamic of a father and son, it just comes natural to me. I don't have to pretend. And this is even before I had children of my own. I've always mentored kids, and I'm trying to reach them where they are right now and where they will be. And, a lot of moments that I pulled from was Jeremiah's dad, Terrence, the way he interact. And I remember one thing while you was asking the questions of the father and son, I remember we were having a conversation offset and he just said, "That's my guy." And
Yeah.
the way he said that about his son, I said, okay, in everything that I do, I need to be there, and I would check in with his mom, Joy, and Terrence when they were behind the monitor, if they were moved or not, because they're not going to lie. Everybody else can say good job, good job. Well, we're moving on to the next take. Well, David's not going to do that, but most directors, you'll move on because of time. But
Mhm.
I will always look at them to see if they were believing it or if they felt something.
Yeah.
And that just allowed me to even sink more into it. And then to have David as a director to allow things to breathe and to give space. That was just any actor's dream to be able to exist on screen and no one's rushing you.
Mhm. And then Jeremiah, I wanted to ask you, what do you hope the message of the film would be?
What do you want the message to be? That anything
Anything
is possible.
is possible.
And what I love what Will just talked about. A question for David is that you let these scenes rest, right? When his car broke down, I felt that frustration. I felt that frustration. So to compound it for the character to have his son in the car trying to go to this baseball game. Tell us about your directing style and why you let the scenes breathe. Because I really felt the movie in terms of feeling those scenes rather than going from scene to scene. You let it extend enough to where you felt the pain of the father or the disappointment of Jeremiah's character.
No, that's a really great question. I think my approach was I didn't want this film to be forward. I want this film to be very present.
Mm.
Mm. And by making it present, now we're living and we're experiencing this life. It's not about the game anymore. It's about what's happening in this present moment and the struggles that's in it currently. And once you dive into the car breaking down or Lucky's getting his wife items out of her car, right? Now we're living in that experience. Now we're walking in Lucky's shoes. We're feeling what he's feeling, his frustrations, his joy, his pain, his anger, right? Because it's not about what's coming in the next scene, it's about what's happening now. And isn't that what life is about?
Yeah.
You know, everything is happening what's in front of us. And I wanted to put the audience in those shoes and in that front seat. And so I just made it a purpose to keep everything present rather than forward.
And then speak a little bit about Brandy Evans. She has a small role in this film, but it's incredibly impactful. One of my other favorite actors, because she has so much warmth either in person or in the role she plays. So talk about casting her and then having her in the film as well.
Yeah, so when it came down to casting, how I typically go about that process is I personality cast. Whenever I write the role, I understand who the individual is, what their ticks are, what their strengths, what their weaknesses, even how they talk, their grammar, their enunciation. Um, and when I'm going out to cast, I don't want my actors to transform.
Mm.
I want my actors to walk in it and exist. And Brandy, from the get-go, I was like, she's Tammy. Brandy, she's one of those people, she's hot and she's cold.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet and she's spicy, and she'd be the first one to tell you. And but that was Tammy in the film, right? Tammy's background is she's the sweetest lady you ever meet, but she'll cuss you out in a second, right? And when I had that conversation with Brandy, she fit right into that. That was her natural personality. She grew up, just her upbringing, that was all around her, right? And so it didn't feel like I was transforming Brandy. I was just allowing her to exist as her natural self. And she's also a caretaker as well for her mother.
Yes.
So that's was something that's natural about her as well, is that everything that Tammy was about, it reflected in Brandy as well.
And then Jeremiah, I wanted to follow up. What was a fun moment that you had on set with Will or one of the other cast members? What was the funnest time you had on set?
It's the first time I had to find real for real because
Did you have fun when you guys did the cooking scene?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, we make waffles
Mhm.
together because he called me super funny. I'm gonna, I'm gonna say to Will, he is a good cooker like me.
Nice. I like that. I like that. And then getting back to Will, I feel like not only isn't there enough positive examples of father son, black father son examples in cinema, in theaters, but there isn't enough real examples of it as well. And I felt like it had that duality of a frustration with the son, from the warmth of a son to the father wanting something for the son. Talk a little bit more about that and the role you played.
Yeah, I think David did just an amazing job of writing that. I didn't have to really create that. I am that. So, but
Mhm.
I didn't have to go and try to search and find it.
Yeah.
My biggest thing that I wanted people to take away um, from this film for me was keep going. You can do it. You're going to have ebbs and flows in life, but stay around.
Mhm.
Be there for your child. And I understand too, a lot of people don't grow up with father figures, you know, for whatever reason that things may have happened. Maybe the only father figure that they will ever know is me in that film.
Mm.
And so I take that at a high regard when I do my work. You know, I know that it's going to reach out and touch somebody because I know how films impacted my life. Although I grew up with both of my parents, there's some things that dad didn't teach me, films taught me, you know, and someone right now is probably going through a situation like that and you're in grief and you just want to drop everything, but you still got to keep going because people depend on you and you will have your moments. One of the most beautiful moments in this film is when the dad is just trying to get a moment and he has his hands covered over his face, but he still has to be dad. And everybody's consumed with his emotions, but they don't hear the slam that Jeremiah does because he's also grieving too. He doesn't say anything until they get to the train stations that I want mommy. And I'm like, me too.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So when you have those real moments, I think they they translate time. You know, they exist forever. And in David's mind, making this black and white, it just makes it exist forever. No matter what year, you can always come back to this moment and be present in whatever year or decade we may be in.
I like that. You're exactly right. It makes it timeless. And what I love
Yeah.
too, David, is the community of father figures throughout the film. Whether it's his boy stopping by, like giving him good graces, the man on the train. It's just this community that knows we're here for you. Talk about that when you were writing the script as well. Not only having Will as the title character, as the father, but just the community he has of other men supporting him and his son in the movie.
That's a really beautiful question. Um, because my main approach was it takes a village, right? It takes a village to raise a child. And everyone in that tribe, everyone in that village has to come together and support, the parent, right? And then each parent has their own child that we got to support and give to them.
Yeah.
And, in this film particularly, I really wanted to showcase how Black men support each other,
Mm.
how Black men are used as a crutch for one another when we're low, when we're down, right? And so even the backstory is that, Lucky's there for his boys when they need help and support. But we're just getting this window into life through Lucky's struggle at this point in time, and we're seeing his friends support him through this moment of grief and through this moment of raising his son who has Down syndrome, right, as a single parent. And so I just really want to, visualize how Black men could come together and unite and support each other through difficult moments that we often always have, right? What Lucky's going through isn't new, right? But seeing the support for Lucky is something I don't think we often see in the cinema, if I'm being very transparent and honest.
Very, very true. And I wanted to ask, if he doesn't mind, Jeremiah's dad, how did it feel to see your son in this role?
Oh, it was amazing. I've often mentioned that before he was cast for it, I would see commercials with that had children with Down syndrome in them, and wonder why is it that I would think to myself, I haven't seen any Black kids, young Black males specifically with Down syndrome in any role on TV. And so when the opportunity came, it was like, here's that chance to see that. And, I put it out there. Unfortunately, it happened in a way that now, I get to say, hey, it was my son that I saw and I'm seeing in this space. And it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
Yeah, and just a comment, Jeremiah, you did great in this role. It was awesome to see you and Will's dynamic in this film.
Thank you.
And last question I wanted to ask Will, what did you learn from either Jeremiah or this experience of this film that you've carried with you into the next role or throughout your life, possibly?
Wow, very good question. I think one of the main takeaways for me is tomorrow is not promised. And what you do in the present matters. And when I went to that junkyard and I saw all them cars, how cold it was when we were shooting that scene, I thought about all the bodies that were lost in them cars. And it just made me, you know, reflect on, as Will, outside of acting, tomorrow's not promised to nobody. So what you deposit into humanity is what's important. What will be that for you? And that allowed me to take that with Jeremiah, but it also allows me to take that throughout life. An example will be if I'm in a scene, I may not never get this scene again. Because 9 times out of 10, the way things are cut together, you don't always get the same feeling when you see it on screen. And so you enjoy those moments. And I did a lot of that with Jeremiah. You know, even when he had to go to school and I'm just acting with the pillow, I can still feel his presence because I was present with him, you know? So that would be probably my biggest takeaway.
Oh, well, that concludes an incredible interview. Thank you, Jeremiah Daniels. Thank you, Will Catlett. Thank you, David Fortune. I saw this at the Chicago International Film Festival. Some of you saw it at the AFI Fest. I encourage you guys to follow this film's journey as it goes to theaters. And thank you guys again.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Love.